right, we're good to go. Please take a seat. Dear guests and dear students from Croatia and from Spain, and those of you joining us by video link, dear Vice President of the European Commission and Commissioner for Democracy and Demography, Mrs. Dubravka Šuica, the Croatian State Secretary for European Affairs, Mrs. Andreja Metelko-Zgombić, the Spanish State Secretary for the European Union, Mr. Juan González-Barba, dear Mayor of the City of Dubrovnik, Mr. Mata Frankovic, dear Head of the European Commission's representation in Zagreb, Mr. Ognjen Zlatev, dear ambassadors, dear Pro-Rector of the University of Dubrovnik, and dear friends and colleagues. Thank you for taking part in this important event, gathering of citizens of Europe. Our discussion here today will be about setting the stage for tomorrow and global and regional role of the European Union. This is one in a Europe-wide series of events within the Conference on the Future of Europe. Well, this is about the what and the why of our gathering, but the where and the how goes to our hosts. And I would like to therefore take the opportunity and thank the City of Dubrovnik for giving us the privilege to use this unique historical place as our venue for today. Mayor Frankovic, thank you. Our sincere gratitude. The Lazareti, this place, were considered an integral part of Dubrovnik's defense system. But this particular part was not about guns and soldiers. Instead, Lazareti were built to protect the city from an invisible enemy, the diseases. See, Dubrovnik researched and developed the quarantine as a systemic response to diseases before anyone else in the 14th century, during the Great Plague pandemic, the so-called Black Death. And people visiting Dubrovnik in times of increased public threats had to stay in places like the Lazareti for the total period of 40 days. And they have even introduced measures like self-isolation, patient tracking, a social distance measure, an elaborate protocol for testing possible cures, state support for the economy during the pandemic, face masks, all of it. And it's all really fascinating 500 years ago. But later on, this public health innovation was adapted by more and more cities in Europe and became a common policy. And this is, in the EU language, called the common integrated approach. And we love common integrated approach. And the idea is to figure out what works best and then try to make it work for others too. And this all goes to show that Europe had a sense about the benefits of shared innovation, of common approach, of forward planning centuries before the European Union put it on a new level. And we're here today, part of the European Union, because generations tried to come up with better solutions on how to protect themselves and others, how to improve their livelihoods, how to benefit from increased areas of cooperation, and how to expand their rights and liberties. And our today's event is, in fact, about continuing this tradition. And before we go on to make right do, I'd like to invite Mr. Frankovic, our host and Mayor of Dubrovnik, to share a few welcome words with us. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Dear Vice President of the European Commission for Democracy and Demography, Mrs. Dubravka Šuica, State Secretary for Europe in Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs of Croatia, Mrs. Andreja Metelko-Zgombić, State Secretary for the European Union in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation of Spain, Mr. Juan González-Barba, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear guests and friends. It is a great pleasure to welcome you here in Lazareti complex. Far back as 1377, the former Republic Ragusa implemented first quarantine rules to contain the spread of plague and simultaneously allow the maritime and overland trade to run unobstructed. For its conceptual originality, Lazareti complex is considered to be the first quarantine regulation in the world by many scientists. The future of Europe is an everlasting topic, and it is good that European institutions include young generations in order to see and hear their view on the European future. When the word politics is mentioned, most of the young people automatically consider it to be something extremely negative or bad. Unfortunately, it is a legacy of the past. Politics is actually something completely different. Politics and its meaning would actually be very easy to describe as a public service. Taking over the duty of politician, an individual decides to give up the private and advocate exclusively for the public. It's not always that case. In many cases, we know this was actually not concluded. But it is up to us, the young generation of politicians, to change perception and show by our examples that politics can and it will be serving the people. The future of Europe depends on young people and their view of how Europe should look like in 10, 15, 20 or 50 years. And this is actually what all of us should strive for. I wish to you the successful conference, enjoy in the heart of diplomacy in Dubrovnik, and make the good decisions, because the weather did allow us to make good decisions today. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Conference on the Future of Europe is a continent-wide democratic exercise aimed at establishing a dialogue, a conversation across Europe between citizens and civil society organizations and institutions and governments to exchange views and thoughts and ideas on how they see the importance and the role of Europe, so as to help bring about a new added richness to the Union in the times that await us. And who best to speak about that than the person who has been honored to organize and lead the Conference on the Future of Europe, the here present Vice President of the European Commission, Mrs. Dubravka Šuica. We're very pleased to have you here, Commissioner.
Good morning to everybody. Dear Mayor, dear State Secretary González, dear State Secretary Metelko-Zgombić, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear students. I'm more than happy to be here today in Dubrovnik, and thanks for invitation to have this exercise, if I may say so, in Dubrovnik, and which our mayor explained the best, so I don't need to repeat what he said about the city of Dubrovnik. So this is part of the Conference on the Future of Europe. I'm particularly happy to welcome our Spanish friends, also our ambassador to Spain, Mrs. Nives Malenica, also head of Commission's representation in Zagreb, Mr. Zlatev, and all your team. So this is very important, and it is the core idea of the Conference on the Future of Europe, that deliberations about the future of the European Union should take place at the local level. This is very important. So it's not only at European level. The reason for organizing the conference is to reach to people, to citizens. And also across cultures, this is also very important. This event today achieves both. I thank you for registering the outcome of today's discussion on the digital platform of the conference. This will allow citizens across the European Union to engage with the ideas you present today. The conference is part of our efforts under a new push for European democracy. It is, as you already heard, transnational exercise in deliberative democracy. It also allows us to discuss the increasing number of transnational issues we face in the European Union. I want to repeat here that this is exercise in deliberative democracy. It's not to abolish representative democracy, because there were some members of European Parliament, members of national parliaments who were not happy with organizing this because they said we are elected directly by citizens, and so we don't need them, but we need them because there is a gap between us politicians and policymakers and citizens. You know that the European dream has already delivered us peace and prosperity. It has delivered us openness, equality of rights, and a system based on values. But we cannot assume that this dream is achieved forever and that we can rest easy, so nothing can be taken for granted nowadays. Our union and its values are being disputed and challenged, both internally and externally. Wherever the rights of an individual or a community are denied or undermined, our European dream is being damaged. Therefore, it is important that we regularly assess where we are and where we want to go. The conference helps with this. Democracy constantly evolves. We politicians and decision makers must embrace democratic change and have the courage to evolve it and to evolve with it. So we have to evolve too, not only citizens. From day one, as Vice President of the European Commission, responsible for democracy and demography, I have invested all my energy in citizens' empowerment and engagement. The Conference on the Future of Europe both empowers citizens and is part of our response to make our democracy fit for the future. We cannot expect citizens to wait 4 or 5 years to express their views in elections. Citizens want to have a greater say now on our common future. The world has changed. The pace of life has accelerated. We need a vision, creative reimagining of democracy in the European Union, with the courage to deliver differently and to empower citizens. The conference brings citizens into the heart of policy making. Citizens can deliberate with each other and on an equal footing with their elected representatives. This is what we want to achieve. We are embedding citizens' engagement in the European Union institutions in a much more structured way. The conference will help reinforce the representative democracy. It will help build democratic legitimacy and trust, ensuring that future generations have a European Union that responds to them. The Conference on the Future of Europe is making this happen. Take, for example, European panels, which are the heart of the conference. Citizens feel honored to participate in this unique exercise, even if some very initially were skeptical about this process. They are committed to the conference and take their role seriously. Their engagement is impressive, given that almost none of them have ever participated in this type of event before. May I illustrate? So we have selected randomly selected 800 citizens, 4 panels, each 200 people. Out of 200 people in the first panel, only 7 of these 200 have ever taken part in something similar, which means that we need them, we need to encourage citizens, and we need them to take part into creating our future and our democracy. The Commission has always been open to the participation of countries from Western Balkans. I have to mention this. We acknowledge that the Western Balkans will need to find their place in our reflection on the future of Europe. Just last week, President von der Leyen confirmed this during her visit to this region. She visited 6 countries, and the details are still to be agreed with the European Parliament and the Council. A final point on the conference is more than a listening exercise. The outcomes of European citizens' panels will feed into plenary sessions, as stated in the joint declaration by the President of the European Parliament, the Council and the Commission. In spring next year, we will follow up and provide feedback and outcome. As the deliberative democracy wave washes across the European Union and indeed the world, the European Union has a unique opportunity to lead and inspire others across the globe. So no democracy in the world has ever tried something similar. So this is very brave from the European Union, but as I said, the conference serves as inspiring and innovative model of deliberative democracy. It is recognized and applauded in international fora and in bilateral contacts with third countries. For instance, the Bali Democracy Forum, then the Chilean constitutional process, and also Atlantic Council. We must enhance the capacity of the European Union to be strategically autonomous and enforce its interests globally. China's power games, an inward-looking United States, a more challenging Russia, and an unstable neighborhood. This is the international scenario we currently live in. We were all touched by the recent events in Afghanistan. We understand that the capacity of these events to influence the current and future geopolitical order. It is vital that we reach out to partners, especially to those who share our values. In that context, the Western Balkans are a strategic priority for the European Union. We share a common future. Our initiatives pursue economic development and integration of the region. We also focus on political integration necessary to support peace and stability and bring the region closer to European Union standards and acquis. Last week's summit and the recent visit of the President von der Leyen have been an important signal. The Commission is working hard to encourage the countries to advance on fundamental reforms. To give fresh impetus to the aspirations of the region, it is important to move forward with Albania and North Macedonia. Both countries have made steady progress in advancing European reforms, including in the areas of the judiciary and the fight against corruption and organized crime. We have asked a lot from those countries, and they have delivered on reforms. Now it is for us, European Union, to deliver. This really is a question of our credibility. The European Union is the biggest donor, trading partner, and investor in the region. We need to build on that to bridge the socio-economic gap between the European Union and the Western Balkans. We have developed an economic and investment plan to spur the long-term and sustainable economic recovery of the region. This is a substantial investment package mobilizing up to 30 billion euros of funding as a combination of grants, guarantees, and preferential loans. The Western Balkans are a priority for the European Union and will continue to invest in our common future and address transnational issues. So there is no doubt that democratic resilience has increased in importance as the transnational issues become more prominent. Think about our global common experience of COVID-19. If we could learn just one lesson from the COVID-19 and from pandemic, it should be the importance of solidarity. European solidarity has been the driving force for Europe's recovery. We supported the development and procurement of more vaccines together than if we had acted unilaterally. And we look to the recovery. The adoption of our unique recovery tool in July 2020 reinforces our internal cohesion. The unprecedented package of the EU long-term budget and the Next Generation EU Recovery Instrument amounts to over 2 trillion euros. The Recovery and Resilience Facility is the heart of the Next Generation EU, with more than 720 billion euros in loans and grants to member states. Next Generation EU is also about building a better future. It's not by chance that this is called Next Generation EU. It's not. It is because we are preparing this Europe for next generation, but together with you, which means not about you, without you. So this is the reason why it's popularly called Next Generation EU. So more than half of this will be invested in climate and digital. And the system is already working, money is already arriving in the member states. So 51.5 billion in pre-financing was dispersed to 16 member states, including Croatia. And to conclude, dear secretaries of the state, dear mayor, dear guests, the significant geopolitical shifts we face today are emphasized by the experience of the COVID pandemic and still far from being tamed. Being here today in Lazareti reminds me that in the time of the old Dubrovnik Republic, people also experienced quarantine. This is what our mayor explained to us. This is where the goods and people arriving from long voyages had to stay for 40 days, this is the reason why it's called quarantine, to ensure that they did not infect the local population. The Dubrovnik Republic was a small but important player of its time. Its seafarers and traders were building bridges and connecting cultures. Its motto still rings true today: liberty is not sold for all goals in the world. The building of democratic connections, legitimacy, and trust help reinforce our democracy. At home and abroad, for current and future generations, the Conference on the Future of Europe will not provide all the answers. It's not panacea for all ills. But this process is a vital step in making our democracy fit for the future, ensuring that no one is left behind. So the European Union was able to build the basis for the next generation of Europeans to have the same peace and prosperity that those of my generation aspired to and achieved. We can never take any of it for granted, and we must work together to preserve it, including through the Conference on the Future of Europe. So this is my invitation to all of you, especially young people, to come to, of course, to similar events, but also to the hub of the conference, which is multilingual digital platform. You can subscribe there, and you can put your idea, you can organize an event, you can comment, and you can see what is happening with your comment or with your idea in the end. So this is very important to know, and I thank you for the possibility to explain this. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Commissioner. The conference itself has 9 thematic areas. Talking about all of them would, of course, prove to be too difficult time-wise. But the one that interests us most today here is the role of Europe in the world. Hence the title of our event, Setting the Stage for Tomorrow, Global and Regional Role of the European Union. More so, we will focus on 2 fundamental questions. What are the benefits of a stronger geopolitical Europe? And is the enlargement policy of strategic importance to the EU? And these are big and immensely important subjects. So we've asked the state secretaries for Europe of Croatia and Spain, respectively, who are co-hosting this event as well, to open a discussion and share their views on the challenges and opportunities for Europe in the world, and to help us start the conversation. So perhaps State Secretary Metelko-Zgombić, would you like to share a few words with us? Thank you.
So, dear guests, dear Vice President Šuica, dear State Secretary González-Barba, dear Mayor, dear participants, it gives me really a great pleasure to be here with you today, and in particular I would like to extend the warm welcome not only to you who have the privilege of being here today in person with us, but also to all the participants which are here with us online. As you have heard, they are from Croatia, they are from Spain, and this makes this event really unique. I would like to thank Mr. Mayor for giving us the opportunity to enjoy these beautiful premises, to have our event here in this historical Lazareti site. You heard a lot by the previous speakers about the site, but I really cannot also not to mention how important it was that Dubrovnik, it was in 14th and 15th century, has built this quarantine and has shown the way how to fight contagious diseases even at that time. It is even more beautiful if we take into account that the whole site has been recently renovated by the EU funds, and this is yet another example how EU can be helpful assistant to its people, to the member states, and how this can also be one of the big advantages of EU membership. Cherishing the cultural heritage is definitely one of the topics which go right to the interest of each and every citizen of European Union. As Vice President Šuica said, here we are together. The whole idea of the conference is to let the voice of the citizens be heard and to have a frank debate what kind of Europe we do want to have in the future. We want to hear from you on a range of subjects, on issues that might be preoccupying you in a way because they impact your life, they impact your well-being today, but they can also determine our future. And as you have heard, this event is not one-off event. It has been designed as a serious event exploring different topics. One of the big topics of the conference is the role of the Europe in the world. Why? Because we live in an interconnected world, and even remote international events can influence our daily life. The COVID pandemic, which has strongly shaken our societies and economies, is yet another example and proof of it. Today we would like to talk about what does the whole concept of geopolitical Europe mean for us, for Croatians, for Spanish, for European citizens, and how we can work together in the European Union to be better prepared for the future, to better promote and protect our interests globally. Of course, it is natural that usually when thinking about the future, the main preoccupies is with those who are to whom we are the closest one, to our family, to our friends, to our community, to our region. And this is why one of a set of the questions we have particularly put in front of you today is a discussion on the relations between the EU and its immediate neighbors in the Southeast Europe, as it is called, the Western Balkans. They are Croatia's first neighbors, which are at a different stage of the European integration. However, again, to be able to see a full picture, sometimes we need to zoom out and take in a broader view. This is why we want to examine where the EU stands also in the global context, because this impacts our ability to act both at home and abroad. And so let us look at some global trends first, which are in front of us. So the pandemic has put a spotlight on the thin line between interdependence and dependency in a global world. It has forced us to re-examine the role of the nation state and the value of partnerships and strong multilateralism. It has underscored the need for the solidarity in global relations, but also for more resilience to face future shocks. It has also brought increased attention to the global supply chains as a factor in reshaping the geopolitical and geo-economic relations. It has made us look into whether, on the global stage, EU can find a common ground with others, including the US, Russia, China, to build a more collaborative post-pandemic international order as opposed to the new cycle of great power competition. The pandemic has already made its mark on our thinking on the future of Europe, but it has not made the other remaining challenges less visible or less serious. We see these challenges in the climate change and environmental degradation, in deteriorating international security, in instability and conflicts in our neighborhood and beyond, competition for key resources, challenges related to new digital technologies, migrations, demographic decline, just to name the few. What is common to all the challenges we mentioned is that they do not stop at national borders, and no state can face it alone. They underscore the interconnectedness of the 21st century we live in, and they can be seen as testing the strategic autonomy of the EU that we all advocate for. This is why we need to think about the EU in the global setting and reinforce its role as a strong global actor which has capacity and freedom to act. It opens a very broad range of questions for discussion, from ensuring the resilience of our health and food system, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology topics, to securing decarbonized and affordable energy. We should keep in mind that 60% of energy in Europe comes from the outer sources. We should talk about the digital and technological sovereignty in a hyper-connected world, to answer who controls the technology, who produces chips, semiconductors. And we should also talk about supply of crucial, critical raw materials that are key for the 20th century's economy, such as batteries. We should work on resilience of our economic and financial systems, mitigating the effects of brain drain, strengthening security and defense capacities, working with global partners in promoting peace and stability, and strengthening the resilience of our own institutions. A look back to our region, Western Balkans, paints a challenging picture as well. Close to home, the COVID pandemic crisis has also highlighted our interconnectedness and the importance of close cooperation and partnership between the EU and our Western Balkan partners. The EU has stood by the Western Balkans throughout the pandemic with health and socio-economic support in the sum of 3.3 billion euros. However, the pandemic has also underscored the issue of third actors' influence in the region. This brings me back to the EU's global ambition. Why? Because the EU's credibility as a global actor depends on how effectively we can respond to challenges in our immediate proximity, primarily the Western Balkans, but also we can talk about Eastern and Southern neighborhoods. A week ago, the European Union and Western Balkan leaders held a summit in Brdo, Slovenia. Last year, during the Croatian presidency of the Council, we organized a similar such summit in Zagreb, because we believe it is important to have a regular, high-level dialogue with our Western Balkan partners and encourage them on their EU path in reaffirming their European perspective. Enlargement has been among the most successful EU policies to date. But enlargement is more than mere membership. Before anything, it is an immensely important transformative process which aims to motivate and consolidate democratic, institutional, judicial, and economic reforms. It is the best part of our toolbox in our efforts to make the region become more stable, secure, and prosperous, which is particularly important in view of recurring destabilizing trends. Before we invite you to give your views, comments, questions, proposals on how to build a Europe that is fit for the future, allow me once again to say a big thank you for my Spanish colleague who has come here to join us and give his contribution to our debate. In particular, thanks also for being able also to convene and to invite your Spanish citizens who are together with the Croatian ones online, and I would like really once again warmly welcome our Spanish citizens there as well. In closing, let me just make a remark that Croatia is the youngest member state of the EU. We have entered in 2013. It has been 8 years since our entry, while Spain has been a member since 1986. And it would be interesting to hear how and whether the fact that Spanish citizens have been in the euro for a longer period of time, whether this can also reflect in our understanding and vision about Europe and in which way it should develop. Thank you very much, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the comments and proposals of all of you participating in this event. Thank you.
Thank you, State Secretary. And now I'd like to invite State Secretary Juan González-Barba. Please, Chair, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice President Šuica, dear Dubravka, my colleague, dear Andrea, Mayor of Dubrovnik, dear ambassadors, and especially dear participants from Croatia and from Spain online, and also from Croatia online. For me, today is a very special day because of being in Dubrovnik, because of having come to strengthen relations furthermore between Croatia and Spain, and also for participating with the Vice President in one of the key policies and initiatives of the European Union. I will start, if you allow me, from the local, and then I will go up. Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik represents, dear Mayor and dear former Mayor, the soul of Europe. It represents ingenuity. We are here at the Lazareti, and we were told how in the 13th century it was an initiative of this city of entrepreneurs that brought about one incredible discovery that after 7 centuries we still use it, and was unfortunately because of a pandemic, but had to be implemented. So this represents the Europe we want, the Europe that is always trying to improve the present and future life of her citizens. Also, Dubrovnik represents a crossroads. The melting pot of people. You have so different in your past, so different experiences: Mediterranean, from the east, Central Europe, Southeastern Europe. This is the Europe we want. This is the Europe we have to accept. We are so diverse, and we have to learn from each other. And then Dubrovnik also represents the legacy of traders, and Europe was made because of getting to know each other, and since the foundation it was perhaps the pilgrims and merchants and traders who started up building this unique civilization which is European one. So for these 3 reasons I do believe that Dubrovnik should always hold a very special place in our hearts. I know that it's a very popular destination now for our Spanish citizens and tourists, and I only encourage them to keep on coming here because it's really a jewel of a place. Then regarding Croatia and Spain, we're trying, both of us, to reach out, thanks to the help of our ambassadors here who are doing an excellent job, because we are discovering so many commonalities. And last week we had the first ever visit of a Spanish Prime Minister to Croatia, and there we find a Mediterranean commonality. Now Croatia is part of the so-called Mediterranean grouping of member states. We are also, as Spain, and this is something I will refer to later on when dealing with one of the topics, we're part of Eastern Europe because, not because of just being members of the European Union, but because among ourselves we have over 1 million, nearly 1.5 million inhabitants from southern Eastern Europe, Romanians and Bulgarians mainly, and that happened in the last 15 years. Thanks to the European Union, they're perfectly integrated and sharing in our common life as Spaniards and Europeans. And then finally, we are here both online and physically because we are participating in yet another event of citizens within this conference. First of all, you have to be proud of your Croatian commissioner because of her enthusiasm, hard work, and also, if I may say so, Dubravka, patience, because I'm also a participant in the Executive Council, And at the same time that we are consulting with citizens, we have to sort out the rule of procedures, the sort of always complex institutional things within the European Union. It takes long hours of discussions, and she has always been most persuasive. And we are here partly thanks to her. This conference should have been inaugurated in May last year, and I cannot think of a better place to do so. Unfortunately, that couldn't take place. So in a way, I'm so happy to be sharing this venue now for an initiative, and I don't want to repeat the words that Vice President has already said. What I can tell you is that in the different many events that I'm attending, both European and Spanish, we are hearing many proposals, many suggestions that are already being taken into consideration. Your voice will mean and also will promote changes. It's as Vice President said, this is a deliberative initiative, and it's good that we come out and listen to you directly, try to reply to your questions, and incorporate in several papers. There will be conclusions at European level. We also want to have conclusions at Spanish level. We would like also that somehow they might influence our priorities for the incoming rotating presidency in the second half of 2023. There are two topics, and with this I'm finalizing my initial remarks, that brought us here, especially the talk about strategic autonomy, and then the enlargement towards the Western Balkans. I will just briefly refer to both of those, because that will be the topic of your questions and our answers. I would say that when we talk about this jargon of a war, strategic autonomy, we are referring to something that every society had to deal with throughout history. How you relate with your neighbors, with your position in the world. There are, first of all, fears and challenges that you have to tackle, be it in the field of defense, fight against terrorism, uncontrolled migration, energy dependence, etc. This is not new. This has happened all along. Also, there is always the strive to keep the leading edge in comparison with your neighbors and competitors in the rest of the world. And this also happens here when we talk about strategic reserves or the digital transformations, new technologies, these type of things. Also exporting values and not just standards, which is important, and how you reach out to the world. And the world has always meant for every society concentric circles. And those who are closer, you want to incorporate them as soon as possible to your values and your institutional trapping. Well, the Western Balkans feature here. They are meant to be part and parcel of our EU family. They're already part of the European family. And this is, of course, of strategic importance. I don't want to repeat what both Vice President and the State Secretary have already said. All I can tell you is that we share this view, and we share the importance that the Western Balkan countries will soon be part of our institutional framework, the European Union. And finally, I would also like to underline that the divisions within each society also have an impact on your position in the world, because divisions means weakness perceived from those outside of your society, of the European Union. And it's important that we manage to solve and to overcome these divisions through constant negotiations. One key way to do so is to foster this common European identity, to learn to see the European Union and the world from the different perspectives of our citizens. It's important that you Croatians would go to Spain and understand the perspective from Spain, and that we Spaniards would come here and do so. So you have two reasons, which is so important, and because of the pandemic, both our societies had to suffer because it's so important in our economies. It's the education, it's the Erasmus project, and I know that Spain is one of the most popular destinations for Croatian students, and I hope and I will encourage that Croatia will be so for Spanish students. It's European civil protection. Whenever we have emergencies, you recently had an earthquake, we are now having a volcano erupting, we had wildfires over last summer, that we perceive how we act as a single body. It's also quite important. And then this conference is key also to foster strategic autonomy, because we participate, we listen to all of you all over Europe, and I can tell you that our dear European Union has not only a bright present, but an even brighter future, thanks to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, State Secretary. Perhaps it's best if we just stay seated now. There is one person in particular that saw the importance of this Europe, a young person who is now an adult, granted, but he's been doing this for over a decade now, and he has the same passion as ever to connect the European and Croatian students. He's with us here today. His name is Martin Mrša. He's the president of a Croatian civil society organization called Youth in the EU. And some of the students from Europe that he helped come to Croatia as part of various Erasmus programs have decided to stay for good. So careful when you're visiting. Your stay might be longer than you expect and more permanent. Martin asked whether he could say a few words in Croatian instead of in English, and I hope you don't mind. I'll try to provide the interpretation to the best of my abilities. Martin, izvoli.
Dobar dan svima. Izuzetno mi je zadovoljstvo što vam se mogu svima ovdje obratiti i ovim putem vam u Dubrovnik nosim lijepe pozdrave iz moga grada Šibenika.
Hello everyone, and it's very nice to be here, and thank you for the opportunity, and I also bring you greetings from my hometown Šibenik, which is also on the Adriatic coast.
Kao sudionik plenarne sjednice u Strasburu došao do zaključaka da je većina sudionika tamo govorila o zajedništvu cjelokupne Europe i svi su slali, u većini slučajeva su slali poruku da je potrebno osnažiti cjelokupnu Europsku uniju, sa čemu se i ja osobno slažem.
I participated recently in a plenary in Strasbourg where a majority of participants talked a lot about communality and unity and keeping Europe together and making it stronger, which I full-heartedly support as well.
Moja organizacija je 21.9.2021. u Šibeniku organizirala jednu aktivnost u sklopu konferencije o budućnosti, u sklopu projekta koje financira Ministarstvo vanjskih poslova na temu politike za mlade. Jedan od glavnih zaključaka te aktivnosti je bilo da mladi ljudi nažalost nisu dovoljno informirani o svim politikama i programima koje nudi cjelokupna Europska unija, te da je u budućim razdobljima potrebno ih nekako više na lokalnoj razini o tome svemu informirati i vjerujem da u tome može veliki partner biti upravo civilno društvo.
My organization, the organization I work at, the Youth in the EU, organized an event within the conference on the future of Europe last month on the 21st of September. where the main point was main subject was the issue of youth policies and policies for the youth. And the conclusion was that most of the youth and the younger generation are not that well informed about the possibilities that are there for them within the EU to aspire to, or to try attending different programs and using different opportunities. And it is Martin's belief that more should be done on this regard, and perhaps civil society organizations could be used more on a local level to help the younger generation understand better the opportunities given to them by the European Union.
I za kraj, vezano u sklopu teme ove današnje konferencije, kroz dosta komunikacije i razgovora sa mladim kolegama iz različitih država iz regije, oni jednostavno žele biti uključeni u proces pridruživanja njihovih država Europskoj uniji. Svjesni su da će taj proces trajati duži niz godina, ali jednostavno od samoga početka pridruživanja pa do članstva njihovih zemalja žele aktivno doprinijeti cjelokupnome procesu kako bi se što kvalitetnije njihove države priključile i ujedno odradile taj cjelokupni proces. Eto, toliko od mene. Hvala vam.
In our discussions with the youth from the region, who are still not members of the European Union, most of them said that they really do want to be involved in the process of accession or becoming a member and of the EU, and they're quite aware that they're talking about a long period of time, but they also emphasize the process that leads to the membership, that it's not just about becoming a member. They see changes just by their societies attempting to come closer to the EU on any of the different subjects or areas. And hvala Martine. And for those of you who are participating online from Spain, hvala is Croatian for thank you. So muchas gracias, Martin. Yeah. We really wanted to make this not merely a panel where distinguished guests speak, no matter how interesting they are, and the audience just listens. Instead, we would like this to feel more like a conversation, and we want to hear from you. And looking back, I keep thinking, I should have done more, my generation should have done more. There's often this feeling of not being there yet when you're 20. And that your perspective somehow has to wait. But that's not really true. And see, the European innovation pool, that's you, honestly. And people rarely figure out new things when they're in their 50s. They figure them out when they're in their 20s, or even earlier. Then they just work on them after that. And innovation is not just something that happens in science and technology. The innovation is in the art you make, in an idea shared among friends, in a paper written as part of a university seminar. And this is why I would like to encourage you to not be afraid to speak your mind today, and not just now for this event, but frankly, ever. Questions are welcome, of course, but especially your views and your perspectives. And we all are, incredibly curious as to what your ideas are. And you can address us all here, or by video link, or you can send us text messages via social networks. We're very curious. And perhaps we have someone that would like to start? They're, all right.
Hi everyone, my name is Marko Žmirak and I'm representing NGO Erasmus Student Network Dubrovnik. I'm very grateful that here we also have valued representatives and especially Mr. Zlatev, since we are partners in Europe Direct program, so I'm very happy always to promote that we are here to promote and share same values. So I have a question for Croatian State Secretary. Croatia is the youngest EU member, so we had to carry out deep and complex reforms to meet criteria for EU membership. Do you think that our Western Balkan neighbors are making enough progress to meet EU criteria for accession? Thank you.
Tough question.
Shall I respond it right now? Or
maybe we could get, thank you very much for the question. It's a very tough question. But I would also like to perhaps encourage the online participants as well to just raise your hand if you want to ask a question, and we'll just pull you in. See, we have a few already. Could we maybe connect one of the online participants? Ivo? Hello, hola. Please, we're all ears. Hello, who?
You have to mention Pablo Torres.
I can see it. Pablo Torres, Pablo?
Yeah, thanks. Welcome. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm here as part of the Equipo Europa, Association of Young Students. So basically, my question would be regarding the last clashes in between, for example, Hungary, because of the democratic backsliding, and the European Commission, some member states. My question would be directed towards the State Secretary of Spain and Croatia and the Commissioner. Are there any kind of concerns regarding the accession, for example, of Serbia, which government is quite close to Orban governments in terms of democratic backsliding, or including in the European club a state that seems to have a really good connection and a strategic interest with Hungarian government, for example? Thank you.
Thank you very much. A well-connected question to our questions here from the audience. Perhaps we can give it a go now. Yeah, please.
Well, thank you very much for those two questions. Both of those questions are really very close to our heart, and Croatia as the neighboring state to the Southeast Europe countries who are still in the process of EU integration, is mostly interested in seeing all of those countries making progress on its EU path. And we really consider it, as I said also in my opening statement, it is not only the end goal of entering the EU, but what it really matters is this transformative power. But in order to have this transformative power, you need to have the political will of those states concerned. And this is why this new methodology, which has been adopted by the EU during Croatian presidency, has put more emphasis on meeting on the high level with the heads of states and governments on a regular basis. Croatian declaration adopted in Zagreb summit organized by Croatia during our presidency proposed the regular summits to be held, and we are really more than glad to see that Slovenia has organized the similar summit just one year after. So these are the fora where the political will of the leaders of those countries need to be encouraged to work harder, work more on their EU path. Croatia has been really very, I would say, concerned with the fact that there has been some stallment in progressing of North Macedonia and Albania on their EU path. We have decided to, on a political level, to open accession talks with those two countries during our presidency, but I'm sure that you are all aware of the fact that we were not, until now, we have not been able to reach the consensus of opening the chapters. We believe that each of these countries needs to do its own homework, and we advocate the merit-based progress, because this is the only progress on the EU path which works, which gains results, which meaning undertaking reforms in judiciary, in media freedom, raising democratic standards in the country, and these are the tasks which are still in front of number of the countries we are talking here about. You ask particularly about Serbia. Croatia is a staunch supporter of a Serbian EU path, because we believe that on this path our neighbor could also progress on the reforms, could also face the horrors of the past. One of the topics in which Croatia is particularly concerned is finding the whereabouts of the missing persons who went missing during the homeland war, and we believe that Serbia can bring some light on it. Altogether, I would say that we are quite optimistic, but we need to work more with those countries in order to grasp the reforms and come closer to the final goal. And as it is also reaffirmed in the last summit, which was held in Slovenia a couple of weeks ago, the European perspective is there. European Union is determined also to invest a huge amount of money in their recovery plan. I think all around 30 billion of euros will be on their disposal, but it is up to these countries also to use this opportunity and to reform themselves in order to become ready for EU membership. This is definitely in their own interest. We are very glad to hear and to see that public opinion in all of those countries is strongly for EU integration, and let's have it done in a shortest possible period of time once all those reforms are done and the societies have been transformed in order to embrace rule of law and all those values in which EU has been established.
Well, thank you, State Secretary. And I believe the question was also for I'm not sure if you wish to add something or...
I think that Andrea answered almost everything, but on behalf of European Commission, I can reiterate what I said in my opening remarks. We are a strong supporter of Western Balkans enlargement. There is no any more enlargement fatigue. The strong sign was a visit of President von der Leyen to the region in the last 2 weeks. So we are, of course, in favor, but no country would be able to join without fulfilling requirements, preconditions. So it will be, as Andrea said, merit-based approach, and we are looking forward to it. Political will is very important. Transformation is important within these countries, and of course there are some bilateral issues which I don't want to mention here, but they are sometimes being they are sometimes preventing them from, I don't want to mention now which countries, but all of you might know if you follow what's going on. Since when you mention North Macedonia and when you see what they did, what they delivered, changed the name of the country, and then they are not able to continue, so I think this should be resolved. But as I said, it is very important to use this new methodology, which can help all these countries in dialogue with European institutions to resolve bilateral issues. So we are in favor, as I said, and for us as Europe and the European Commission, it is of utmost importance, not only for Croatia, but for whole European Union. Geopolitically, it is very important to have Western Balkans out of strategic reasons, out of security reasons, and many, many others. So we are in favor, and I hope that we will soon move from this standstill. So that's all from my side.
Thank you, Vice President Šuica. And we have Katerina from Croatia that wanted to ask us something online. Hello, Katerina.
Hello, everybody. And thank you for hearing me out. I'm actually also working for Youth in the EU organization, the one that Mr. Martin Mrša already presented. And I actually have a question which, is for everybody, but especially for Vice President of the European Commission, Dubravka Šuica. It comes from a little bit more of a soft power perspective. So my question would be, it comes from the fact that during some of the events that I have attended for the conference, there has been mention of a pan-European educational curriculum, especially for high schools. And so my question is, would such a curriculum maybe strengthen the European identity among citizens? And then, therefore, would it also reinforce the socio-cultural influence of the EU on a global level?
Hvala, Katarina. Thank you.
Socio-cultural influence on what?
Soft power influence of Europe globally.
Socio-cultural influence on
Europe on its environment, neighborhood.
Okay. Do you want me immediately to answer immediately?
I think she was referring to the immediate, but also taking a look at the wider.
Okay, so thank you, Katarina, for this question. And yes, I remember that you took part in different events and in different panels in Europe. And regarding this pan-European curriculum and this our strategy towards this, of course, we are trying to build European Union identity. But at the same time, you have to take into consideration that there is a treaty, and you know what are the competencies of European Union, what are the competencies of member states. The competencies of member states, education is still within the competence of member state. But of course, since our State Secretary González-Barba mentioned that there is Erasmus+, there are different programs which are pan-European, and this is the way how we are trying to build this common approach. This is very important. Now you know that President von der Leyen mentioned in a speech of the Union on 15th of September, new program which is called ALMA, which will help young people to find temporary jobs all over Europe. This is also very important, although it's a little bit in conflict with my demography part of my portfolio, but I think later on I will explain on this when we talk about brain drain, which we now try to look from more positive angle. We don't call it anymore brain drain, but brain gain or brain circulation, and even we have a completely brand new term which is brain boosting. So we are trying to make this positive, not to because if you look from the angle of Eastern European member states, they think that educated people move out towards the western part of Europe and that it's not fair, but it is fair if it is brain gain, if it is brain circulation. So this is very important to mingle and to in this way try to create this common European identity. It's not easy since we are 27 sovereign states, and it's not easy, but what we are trying to do is to act within the competencies of the treaty, and this is always very important. Of course, we don't know what will happen after this conference on the future of Europe. Maybe the citizens will ask for some changes within the treaty, and this is the occasion too. I'm not inviting you to do this, but I'm saying that everything is possible. So this conference is open, frank, sincere dialogue between us and policymakers, as I said at the beginning, and you citizens, especially young people. So thank you for this question. It's very complex, but and what I want to mention here is that that next year will be proclaimed as the year of European youth. This is also very important. So next year will be your year. So I hope that there will be a lot to deliberate on this too.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm not sure if you wish to add something when it comes to education and soft power. If not, we can go to Maria from Spain. Hello. Hola, Maria.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for your time and the opportunity. I have a question. It has been mentioned before, the EU's enlargement policy aims to unite European countries in a common political and economic project, guided by the Union's value. That's why applicants for the EU membership must fulfill a Copenhagen criteria. This means sometimes the need for institutional reform in countries interested in being part of the EU. My question is that, given the presence of countries such as China and Russia in the Balkan region, and the economic support that both of them have provided to the region, without this support being conditional to the political and democratic reforms that being part of the EU means, do you think this could cause in the long term disinterest in the Balkans for being part of the EU? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Perhaps, State Secretary, if you would wish to expand on this.
I will, and there are many considerations, of course, why enlargement is of vital importance for the European Union, and Maria has just mentioned one issue that is being raised by experts and citizens, and in politics, be it domestic or international politics, there are no vacuums. So if anyone leaves in space, there are others who will occupy this space. So what we want, of course, is that since these countries we're talking about are part and parcel of our history, of our geography, the sooner they are involved to the full possible extent with us, and it's true that they have to implement reforms, the better. And they will not have the need to seek for help or extra help for very precious needs. For example, during the pandemic, so we were not fast enough to provide with vaccines for these countries, so they had to seek them elsewhere. Now we've catched up with the rhythm, but this is an issue, what Maria has said, that it's part of the whole analysis, so it was well raised.
Thank you. Do you wish to perhaps add something, or we have?
Well, just to say that, we are all aware of the fact that the third players are very present in this region, and keeping those countries firm on the EU path is the only way forward. And maybe we should work not only on a diplomatic level, political level, economic one, but maybe also on public relations level, because it has been known and seen that citizens in the Western Balkan countries do not have the clear picture of the inputs and the assistance European Union has provided, even throughout this pandemic crisis, but also in other areas such as investment. And maybe it is for us to do more and to be more visible and more assertive in presenting what European Union has already done and is going to do for the citizens and for countries of the Western Balkans.
Thank you. Very valid point. I've seen a raised hand in the audience here in the room. Did you want? Yeah, please.
Thank you. I would like to pose a question to State Secretary of Spain, Mr. González. So Spain has a strong historical and economic and people-to-people contacts with Latin America countries. So how does the Europe engage with that region? And can Latin American countries be UE partner on global stage? Thank you.
Hvala. Thank you.
So, please. Yeah. So I was, in my introductory words, I was talking about concentric circles, and it's true we've been focusing on the Western Balkans. Then next circle should be the neighbors, eastern and southern neighbors. But then we have two continents where historically the presence and the influence and the interconnection with Europe has been most important. I'm talking about Africa and Latin America. It's true that in the case of Spain, it was mostly Spain and Portugal who built up those links. But then, after those countries or republics became independent, many other Europeans have moved to Latin America. There's a number of Croatian citizens who moved to Chile, to Argentina, to Brazil, and elsewhere in Latin America, Italians, Germans, Scandinavians, you name them. So, as Europe, there is a lot of us in Latin America, and we need, as European Union, to have the strongest possible links with Latin America. We have, especially with those parts of the world which are not that close to us, so we cannot have enlargement instruments with those, then we have trade policy with other instruments which are not that intense. So now there is talk within the European Union about the signing a very important agreement that has been negotiated for many years between Latin America and Mercosur. Also, the upgrading of the Mexican-EU agreement and the modernization of the Chile-EU agreement. We do believe as Spain, and we are really setting the ratification of such agreements as a priority for our presidency if they are not ratified before them, because we really think that we're all, as Europe, to gain from that. And it will be also for Croatians an opportunity to have closer business, people-to-people, tourist contact with a part of the world which is very close to our values.
Thank you, sir. We also have a question from Amalur, also from Spain. Hola, Amalur.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you all for your statements. They were quite inspiring to listen to. I'm Amalur Gastañaga, and I'm also part of Equipo Europa. Given this pandemic, we have one of the most recent examples on how the EU policies effectively work. Among other helps, the EU has guaranteed for its all member states the access for the COVID vaccine, which we know that has helped save many lives. And it's also giving us the chance to get back to normal. That being said, a colleague of mine who is from Greece and I were wondering why in some countries the citizens respond on whether getting the vaccine or not is being quite different. So my question goes for all of you. In particular, I would like to ask, what do you think is one of the reasons behind the successful vaccination campaign, that Spain has carried out, and on the other hand, a reason why some Balkanic countries that are also EU members are perhaps more hesitant about it? Thank you.
Thank you, Amalur. And perhaps there's also just one more online question, so we can group them. It's O'Hara.
Yeah?
Yes?
Hola,
O'Hara.
Hi everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to ask such distinguished guests. The question I'm about to ask is quite a different topic, but anyways. The European Union, as we all know, faces a problem of energetic autonomy, which affects the stability of the region itself and the structure of power that the EU has in the global structure. And of course, Spain and the Balkan region is extremely important for that, because they both have a specific strategic position in energetic sector. So what do you think, all of you, are the most important measures, short, mid-term measures, in order to tackle the problem? And what are the synergies that the different institutions can develop? Thank you all.
Thank you, Hara. It was a very complex question and a very good one. Perhaps this is already big enough that we two quite different questions, but maybe State Secretary wish to.
Okay, vaccination. Vaccination has been really a huge success, I would say, of the EU after the first months of pandemic, when we really needed to organize ourselves, and it took time to produce the vaccines, and there have been some stallments in delivery, but then at the end we really managed to get more than sufficient number, and right from the beginning we were willing also to share it with the others through COVAX and elsewhere. Let me just say that Croatia on its part has also given some financial resources to the COVAX, and we have also shared it almost 500 million vaccines into our neighborhood, and also a little bit elsewhere. When it comes to vaccination in Croatia, we have undertaken a number of campaigns, and we really managed at the beginning to get quite sufficient and high level of people being vaccinated, but now we do feel that there is hesitance, and we really do not have a right answer how to explain it. I would really like to hear a little bit more about the Spanish experience, how Spain managed and did it. We have undertaken various campaigns, but still we have a way forward to go in order to ensure that really the vast majority of our population is either vaccinated or has already suffered from and got immunity from the disease. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. What's your State Secretary?
Yeah, well, I will say about the Spanish case. I think that the three reasons that explain the success of a high rate of vaccination in Spain. First one was that we were the country which was worst hit, together with Italy, at the beginning. So we had a very strict confinement. We couldn't leave our homes since mid-March until mid-May. So that was a big shock. That's one reason. Second is the excellent cooperation we had between our central administration and the autonomous regions, the autonomous communities, the regions in Spain, which have competence for health issues in Spain. So there was a very good cooperation, also logistic-wise. And third, because the Spanish public opinion has great trust in the public health sector. and in those working in this sector. And they were very forthcoming in the messages and very straight, and they didn't leave a margin for hesitation, as it were. So we've managed to have now 80% of the total population already vaccinated, not including those under 12 years. We're not vaccinating them, but among the big countries, we have the highest rate of success, and now the incidence is about 40%. To 100,000, so it's a big success. And also there was a second question that had to do with energy, yes. And this is something that we've been discussing in our bilateral consultations just before. This, we believe in Spain, that it is an European global but also European phenomenon, and has to be tackled at the European level. So we are presenting proposals that basically, if I may summarize them, would mean to review the way energy prices are set, because this system, this framework was devised some years ago when renewables were much more expensive than other type of contaminating sources of energy. So now the situation has changed. So we are paying much higher rates for gas than renewables to produce electricity. That's one reason. Other is that we have to devise ways to combat speculation regarding ETS, which exists in the ETS market. And thirdly, and just inspiring ourselves from the experience of the vaccination strategy, that on a voluntary basis, we should explore the idea of the Commission having joint negotiations, joint contracts for acquiring energy, and especially gas. So these would be the three main proposals we've put on the table for the European debate.
Yeah, thank you. Makes sense. And please, Vice President.
I would like to shortly comment on vaccination. As I said, if we learn the lesson from this COVID pandemic, it's importance of being together and importance of solidarity. At the moment, I can say that more than 70% on average in European Union of adult citizens have been vaccinated, which is a big success of European Union. Of course, I won't dare talk about the member states, including Croatia, because I was trying to explain this in an interview with sociological reasons, but okay, let's leave this to sociologists, not to me. So, because it's a phenomenon that Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, and countries from eastern part of Europe are less vaccinated than those from western part, and this should be seen. What are the reasons behind? But let me stop here. So I think that there is nothing better than vaccine at this moment, and since it was test, now it's be vaccinated, because there is no other way out from this pandemic. As I said, we haven't tamed it yet, and we have to continue our normal lives. This is regarding vaccination. So working together is very important. European Union invested a lot of money, and half of our production was exported to third countries, which is really very generous from European Union side. So this is about vaccination. Regarding energy, as you know, one of our key priorities, there are two priorities, digital and climate or green. So there are 6 priorities of this Commission, but 2 very important transitions, green and digital. Then this can be connected with energy. If I may recall, former president of European Commission, Juncker, when he used to say, at that moment I was member of European Parliament and was listening always in hemicycle in Strasbourg, what was he saying about? He was always saying, for big issues, Europe, for small issues, member states, because we cannot solve this issue of energy and climate change and the EU Green Deal without working on European level. So I can completely agree what you said, State Secretary, because yes, now renewables are less expensive than traditional fuels. So we have to work on it, and this is the reason why 37% of our national recovery and resilience plans had to be in favor of green and climate transition, and 20% for digitals, because little by little, although we were not aware of what was going on during pandemic and during confinement period, digitals were little by little self-evident. So we, without much effort, there was no other way to communicate. But of course, we have to invest more in digitals, because now we realized. I remember when I started this this tour on Conference on the Future of Europe, I was saying, it was beginning of 2020, I was saying to all these people, look at Finland, they have 50% of their jobs are done remotely. We have to do this little by little. All of us, it was 90% of our jobs which were done remotely during this pandemic. So we showed our knowledge in digitals. We showed that we have technology, and of course this should be upgraded. And I'm sure that young generation is better equipped. And this is the moment where we need intergenerational solidarity, because there are older people who are not that digitally literate. So we have to. Here comes lifelong learning and all this. So I don't want to broaden this topic, but everything is in fact vicious circle. So it is very important to understand what is going on in our Europe from socio-economic angle. So I think energy prices are high at the moment, but since if I want to tell you what are the first results in first interim report on digital platform, we thought that health issues will be first ranked on the agenda. We thought we are in the middle of pandemic, people will be talking about health and pandemic, but no, first issue was, or still is climate change and the green policies, and second issue is the state of European democracy. So this is at the moment, so it's too early to draw any conclusions. It's too early, because we still don't have enough citizens on our platforms and on our panels to draw conclusions. At the moment, if you are curious, we have more than 3 million subscriptions on our multilingual digital platform. But when you make equation, or what is it? When you compare 3 million half to 450 million citizens of European Union, then it is not enough. And someone at the beginning was talking about communication. I think our communication should be really better. We are trying to do our best, but it's not me, you, it's all of us. So this is the reason why we invite all citizens to come on in order to communicate this conference better and to have more people on this platform, in order to have in the end, we will have to draw conclusions, and our conclusions would be supported by more people than, and then they will be more legitimate. And this is what we are trying to do. But we need also media. Media are very important. We use social media, but I think media, television, and all other means of promotion are very important. Otherwise, so this is the moment to do it and to make our communication better. Sorry, I'm a little bit broader, but I just wanted to tell you what is going on the platform, and what energy is, of course, important. And we have to, we are trying to do everything in order to make our member states invest more in renewables. This is what is, in fact, EU Green Deal about. but it's, today we are talking about strategic autonomy, okay? So it's very, very broad topic, so sorry for being...
All very relevant points, for sure. Thank you. And you wanted to add something?
Maybe just to make a short reflection on what you, Juan, said, and this is good why we to have an open exchange when it comes to vaccination. I tick the box, our comparison, to compare a situation in Croatia, our health system is rather stable, and we have a really long, I would say, tradition of even vaccination and a solid standard of health system. So this is once again quite surprising that the number, well, now we have reached more than 50 of adult, and it is not that worrisome, but still it would be better to do more. But maybe one of the reasons would be, apart from this mentality, the fact that we really have not had that strict and hard lockdown. And Croatian government somehow managed not to have curfew hours. We really have not had that strong lockdown, and people maybe have not considered it therefore so seriously. Yeah. Maybe this is one. And just short when it comes to energy, yes, energy is a pillar for our open strategic autonomy. Without energy, we cannot achieve our recovery. And the short answer would be we should diverse sources and types of energy that we gain, in addition to renewables that we have. Gas still is a very important source of energy. Nuclear may be as well. So let's work really towards this green, because once we reach this goal we are supposed to achieve in 2050, then renewables will be really the only ones, and hydrogen. Absolutely new technologies are here to assist us in achieving our goals. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. We have 3 more questions from our online participants. There's Sylvia. Sylvia?
Yes, good morning. Well, my name is Silvia Oya, and I come as well from Equipo Europa, as many people here. And first of all, I'd like to thank all the panelists for giving us the opportunity to listen to them. And well, the Croatian Secretary of State has mentioned that the pandemic made us realize the difference between interdependence and dependency. And my question is whether the Western Balkan countries are in a situation of dependency on the European Union instead of in a situation of interdependence. And if the answer was yes, what implications could this have in case that the enlargement de facto took place? Thank you.
So dependencies and interdependencies in Western Balkan countries in relation to the pandemic, and how the EU can assist to bridge this problem. It's a pretty precise question and a difficult one.
Well, we have, if I may try to answer it. When it comes to, yes, these dependencies are really very worrisome tendencies, and we should really offer our Western Balkan countries all the equipment that they are needed, and also vaccines. But when I speak with my colleagues from Western Balkan countries, it seems that they, at this very moment, do have enough vaccines, but are also facing this hesitancy in vaccination. So it is a very complex topic, and we really need to work more with our public and try to convince them that we should rely on scientific research, and that this is the only way forward to regain our freedom back and the capability to further develop and recover from this pandemic.
Yeah, thank you. It's there anything to add? Or
I fully agree.
Good point, thank you. And now we have Lucia, also from Spain. Hola.
Yes, thank you very much, first of all. I also come from Equipo Europa. And I wanted to ask, after last week's summit, that if the lack of a unified or consensus among the European Union in concerning the Western Balkan situation can be seen as an obstacle for the improving relations with those countries, and also as an obstacle for the future role of the European Union as a global actor. Thank you.
Thank you. I also have a similar question that I received on Instagram.
Just react to that? No, I just... because in a way, I think that this question has been answered by us before, but I just wanted to stress the importance that the Spanish participants are giving to the Western Balkans. This is an issue that is having more and more attention in our public opinion, also among youngsters, and that, of course, you may think that I come here representing my government, and government have their political views and all that, but I want to stress that this is a shared interest, and more youngsters and citizens, but youngsters, are taking a keen interest on the fate of the Western Balkans, and getting closer to the European Union.
And it was a very refreshing thing to see, and I know when we speak to many of our friends in the region, often in moments of despair they would say, just no one cares, no one thinks about it, but in fact people do care, and it's very good to see that the younger generations thinks about this. Yeah, thank you. We now have Rebecca, she's also online. Hi, Rebecca.
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Rebecca, and I'm also part of Equipo Europa. And despite the pandemic situation, Croatia was able to hold the European Union Western Balkans Summit within the framework of its presidency in the Council. One of the concrete measures that were approved was the innovation agenda for the Balkans. And what do you think will be the priorities on which they might focus to work on it? Thank you.
One of the measures was, could you please repeat one of the measures?
The priorities now that we should have vis-à-vis the Western Balkans.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for catching that. Thank you. Would you maybe?
Well, I would say that the priorities have been outlined in this recent declaration summit from Brdo, Slovenia, with the EU Western Balkan leaders. It is, we need to keep them on the EU track. This declaration has confirmed and reconfirmed the EU perspective, but has shown also the ways how they, what are the conditions, what are the reforms they need to undertake in order to progress. And as it was said also before, it is also very important to give them sufficient financial resources. We are really very happy that IPA 3 as the instrument for the pre-accession countries has been agreed within the new MFF, and that this 30 billion euros will be made available for those countries, subject to the reforms. And this is the only way forward. Plus, as I mentioned before, these discussions on the high political level, because those countries also need to have the leadership who is dedicated to pursue. Sometimes it is linked also to socio-economic problems. Sometimes it is linked to the problem of facing the past. So we understand that it is not always that easy for the leadership to move forward, but this is why this more direct consultations and exchange with EU leaders is particularly positive and could somehow improve the process.
And then I would say that on top of what Andrea has answered, the very fact of increasing the rhythm of negotiations or even opening up negotiations are the biggest stimulus for the local public opinion. So they see that whatever sometimes painful reforms they have to carry out, they pay off. Now with Serbia will be the opening up of 2 clusters. And in the case, of course, of North Macedonia and Albania, we've discussed it before. The moment the framework agreements are approved and the initial intergovernmental conference launched, I think there will be a unanimous positive reaction among the public opinion in both those countries, and they will be more willing to implement the reforms that are necessary to incorporate the very complex EU acquis.
Yeah. Fit to participate as a EU member state. It is quite demanding. One needs to develop also capabilities of its administration. So getting those reforms, it is really for the benefit of those states, for themselves, but also they will be able to function better once they enter EU.
By investing these 30 billion euros, which will show them that it's worth doing these reforms. I think this is very important. And you see now that roaming prices are less, so everything is better, so they can see that being together can help the lives of citizens. And I'm sure that this will help. But as you said, the public opinion is okay, but we have to be not to leave them that long without any progress.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And we have several questions that we received on Instagram and Facebook, I believe. And maybe I should group them because we're running out of time here. So 2 questions on security, defense, resilience, and strategic autonomy. So the first one is by Matea Barisic, and she asked, in her State of the Union speech, Ursula von der Leyen called for the establishment of the Defense Union. Is this a step towards introducing an EU army, and how will this initiative reflect on the EU-NATO relations? And the second question is, would you say that the AUKUS agreement sends a bad message on the EU irrelevance on the global political scene? This is a question by Domenica. So both slippery questions. Who wants to try first?
European Army.
European Army, yeah, perhaps I would just say two words on that. First of all, this is a long debate. The more we see how the different forces are evolving on the international scene, the more we realize that we have to develop all our capabilities without excluding anyone. And let's say that it would help a lot, this debate and this internal process within the European Union, if everyone is in agreement, and we are fully committed Atlanticists, that whatever capabilities we developed, they will not jeopardize, but on the contrary, they will complement the engagements that many EU members, which are also NATO members, do have. So basically, complementarity will help a lot this debate within the European Union. And regarding AUKUS, we cannot hide the fact that it was not good news for Europe, and we've all expressed solidarity vis-à-vis France. And basically now, the High Commissioner, Borrell, was traveling to the States now, because there is the willingness on the part of the States and on the part of the European Union to, let's say, overcome these misunderstandings that have taken place, because we, whatever the priorities we each have, of course we're different, we live in different continents and they might differ, but we are fundamentally allies. So it's important that all the elements that constitute a very beneficial alliance for both sides should continue to be underlined. So we are in the process of doing this.
Thank you.
Well, I can only subscribe what's said about AUKUS, and of course states really have the right to enter the partnership, but we should also work together with them. But if I may just say one point on this defense topic, this MFF has already made one step forward. We have European Defense Fund, we have established cooperation within the PESCO, which enables our industries also to gather around various projects. So we are working a lot on strengthening our capabilities and on interoperability. If or whether it will end up in the European army, I think this moment we are not there. There have been always some kind of discussions whether we need to have battle troops in order to be able to react, but for this we also need to have political will, and this is also which needs to be discussed within the EU member states. And also for having the political will, we need to join our intelligence information. We need to work more closely on scene analysis of the situation. So there is a lot of things that we need to do first in order to make some further step in this regard. But still, this is also one important part of the open strategic autonomy we are all dedicated to.
Thank you.
It's okay.
I was using taking notes, so I was thinking. Okay, so we have a question by Petar. He asked, does the Nord Stream 2 project negatively affect the EU's countering the future spread of the Russian influence in the EU? And even if it is not seen as a political problem, does this project erode the moral legitimacy of the EU?
Very complex. Very complex question.
Very interesting question.
And interesting on Nord Stream.
First of all, one can say that Nord Stream is not a European project; it's a project
country to country, national. But it is done in accordance with the acquis, and it has been examined vis-à-vis its accordance with the acquis, and it has been proven that it is in accordance. I think the real answer would be, and the topic we have discussed, we need to get energy mix and diversity of sources, and this is the way we should go forward.
Thank you. And we should be wrapping up soon, but maybe we'll go with one more question, then just a round from all of you to just say something for the end. Europe asks Damian, Europe is entirely economically dependent on importing semiconductors from Asia. How does the EU intend to solve this problem in the future, and will the post-pandemic recovery be focused on strengthening economic independence and self-sufficiency? And also, Ivan asks a similar question. Does the EU, related question because it's in the Pacific, does the EU plan to strengthen bilateral relations and economic cooperation with Taipei in the near future?
Okay, may I, on semiconductors and on other raw materials. So you know that President von der Leyen announced European Chip Act, which has to do with semiconductors. You know that now we are dependent on South Korea, on Chile for lipids, so we are really dependent on this. Regarding pharmaceutical strategy, which we adopted also last year, we also depend on, on labor force from India, and most of pharmaceutical industry is now placed in India. So we have to do a lot. What we are doing at the moment is that we are setting up new factories all over Europe, and not only Europe, also in Africa, for vaccine production. And this is something which we see that we have to be better prepared. And this is the reason why we have this new foresight strategy. We have also a commissioner or vice president of the European Commission who is in charge of foresight, who is Mr. Šefčovič. So without foreseeing what is going to happen, it won't be easy for Europe. So we have to be better prepared than we were for this pandemic. We never know what will happen. And definitely, we are working on this, as I said, European Chip Act on pharmaceuticals and many, many others. Andrea mentioned in previous question on defense industry and on interoperability. This is also important for Europe, and we have to be also strategically autonomous for this too. Although we are, of course, always aligned with NATO, and there are no conflicts, but at the same time we have to make Europe better equipped and better prepared for possible future pandemics or whatever it might happen. So foresight is very important, and also this conference in the future of Europe can help us to detect what citizens think we should do. And I'm really grateful for all these questions which were put by our audience.
Thank you. And Mr. González-Barba, maybe you have your take on Europe's dependency or seeming dependency on Asia and semiconductors. And
I will just say that this is a concern of every society throughout history. Everyone wants to be at the leading edge on technology, because otherwise you become a laggard. And this is something that we as Europeans should strive always to be at the forefront of innovations. And this is one vulnerability that we currently have. Another one is to have access to critical material and how we do secure that. Also, quite important is to secure the normal functioning of global chains of value, which also requires a whole analysis, and we are doing so. So these are elements, crucial elements of the whole concept of strategic autonomy, and the Commission, Vice President has just said so, I think has put all the relevant proposals on the table. Vice President Šuica mentioned CHIPS Act, but there are many issues regarding artificial intelligence, all the agenda of digitalization. So the Commission is not letting us down, is making us work a lot, think a lot, coordinate a lot among the different line ministries. And I think that this is one of the commissions that are triggering off, and also because of a pandemic, but not only, the biggest revamping of the European Union in many years.
We have one more question from the audience here, and let's make this our final one. Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Boris Gluhan, and I represent here a local NGO, which is Youth Career Center Dubrovnik. And my question would be to Mrs. Matea, Croatian State Secretary. Croatia is the youngest member of the Union, and we had to go through the extensive and difficult tasks and to complete the reforms to meet the criteria to join the EU, to become the members. Do you think that the other potential Western Balkan candidates are doing enough towards the goal? Meaning, so the other part of the question is, do you think that there is strong political will, but not coming from the institutions, rather from the people? Western Balkan states or societies, we share many things, and some bad, some good. One of the bad things that we share is definitely political ambivalence. And Croatia sort of is proof of that. For example, on the referendum for joining the EU, only 43.51 people voted in the referendum. And do you think that the EU is doing enough to encourage people in the political participation? And what more EU can do to get more people into the political participation and to society to mature in that way? Thank you.
Well, thank you for this question. I believe that the first part of question I have already answered. We need to work together with our partners to get their political will to become stronger. Let me end here. And when it comes to political participation, yes, we all need to do more. Well, this is a topic which has been also discussed within the EU, how to raise democratic awareness and the participation of EU citizens. It goes equally for Croatia. During our accession talks, we spoke with our public and we tried to explain them all the topics which are on the agenda. And at that time, the awareness was quite high. Although you say that when we entered EU, before it, the referendum, it was sufficient one. But simply we have that kind of mentality, I would say, not to be that much involved. But this really needs to change, and event like this and many others are served to somehow invite our citizens to take part, to voice their concerns, their positions. And I can really only echo what Madam Šuica said. The more you go to the platform and the more you put your comments, proposals, the more your voice will be heard. And we are now heading to the second plenary of the conference, and the second plenary will take what has been discussed on the panels of citizens, as explained by Madam Šuica, but also from the inputs they get from the platform. So we will notify our event, we will try to convey the messages, the concerns, the proposals you have voiced, but the more you put in, the better your voice will be heard. And I think this is the general question also, and we need to work, of course, more on this in Croatia. When it comes to conference of the future of Europe, Croatian government has even established one working group in which we somehow encourage the line ministries to organize various events together with civil society, with various institutions. 2 days ago, there was one big event on demography held in Zagreb, where various experts came up with their ideas, put forward their proposals. So this is the only way we can proceed, and then really the voice of our citizens will be heard.
Thank you. I have to apologize to our audience because we still have several people online, both from Spain and from Croatia, but we're already over time as it is. So sincere apologies for that, but it's great to see that there has been such interest. So thank you. But I invite you all to contribute your comments on the digital platform, just as the State Secretary said and Madam Šuica, and we'd love to hear from you. We should wrap this up. I'm not sure if you want to have a final remark or...
Yes, two quick words. First of all, I'm very happy to see how well this interacting between young Croatians and young Spaniards work. And I can only encourage my co-citizens to come further here to Croatia, to interact via all the social networks, to come and study here through Erasmus, because it's It's a very fruitful mixture. That's one thing. And the second thing, again, just seeing this experience, I see how important this initiative of the Conference on the Future of Europe, because in the end, the most important thing is that everyone should be aware that Europe is not something that is cooked by politicians in Brussels or even by politicians in their respective national capitals. But Europe is us, is the citizens. And to have a Vice President of the Commission ready to answer point blank all type of questions is something unique. It has not happened before. So I do believe that this whole initiative is a success in spite of not being able to have it since May last year. But still, I have to congratulate, as a conclusion, to Vice President, to the incredible work she's doing at the front, at the head of such an innovative experience. Thank you very much, and also thank you very much to you and to Andrea, and to all the participants in Spain and in Croatia.
Thank you for the kind words. Madam Šuica?
I also want to thank, first of all, Andrea, but also Juan for coming here to Croatia and to Dubrovnik and for organizing such an event, because I think it is important, though in a hybrid way, but it might be better because more of you were able to participate. I think this exchange of views is very important, but if we leave it like this, without subscribing on the platform, this is in the air, like this hasn't happened at all. So we have to go back to the platform with the feedback or with the conclusions, and then you can follow what will happen with this in second or third interim report on the platform. So this will feed into European citizens panels and then feed into conference plenary, which you, Andrea, mentioned, which is going to be happen on 22nd of October in Strasbourg. This is maybe some people ask me whether this is too short period of having these deliberations. I would say yes, we had problem with the pandemic last year, but we have to end in spring next year, not because of French elections, but because we need second part of our mandate in order to act upon these ideas and upon what will be deliberated in these 3 Ps. So it is very important not to end up mandate and then nothing happened. We have to either propose a new legislation or whatever might come out of these deliberations. We have to act accordingly, and this was promised not only verbally but also in joint declaration which was signed by 3 presidents of 3 institutions. So this is the reason why we need 2.5 years for acting. And so although nobody asked me this, but I know that this might be a question. So citizens' engagement is very important. Without that, we would again stay into within Brussels bubble. We don't want Brussels bubble. We want to burst it, and we want. This is the reason why we go on the ground, and why one of the reasons why this job was assigned to me by President von der Leyen is that I'm only one former mayor among 27 commissioners, and she said, "Oh, you have experience with exchanging views with citizens." So this was one of the reasons for dedicating this portfolio to me, apart from demography, which is also a very important part. But I hope next time we can make this also a topic of such an event. So I want to thank you, and especially you young people, because without you, as I said, we cannot talk about you. 2050, which is a year of having zero neutral, climate neutral European continent. You will be living then. Who knows what will happen with us at that time. So I think it is very important to listen to your ideas and to incorporate your ideas. And the key crucial difference between this conference and previous convention and citizens' dialogues and different fora is that this time you will have follow-up. This is the reason why I said we need this 2.5 years, and I'm really optimistic and looking forward to your ideas. I want to thank you once again, and we'll be in touch.
Great.
Thank you for taking part. Thank you.
Yeah. I think this has perfectly summarized the overall outcome. I would just like to thank you for your time and for your effort to come and also to participate, Madam Šuica, and also the State Secretary. And please, once again, fill your comments into platform, and thank you all for participating. This pandemic has only one, I would say, good side. Okay, we all learned how to use this. Talking for myself, we all learned how to use this online. So this actually enabled also participants from Spain who are far away from here also to contribute to our discussion. And I think this discussion has shown that we do have a number of topics that are of our concern, that we share, and I think this discussion by itself has raised our mutual understanding and awareness of the topics which are important for our future. Thank you once again for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you all, and especially thank the participants and those who asked the questions, and thank you for your curiosity. And I think we've heard some really important and interesting points today, and in very interesting questions as well. And they reminded us that Europe's role in the world is not a single-dimensional, one-sided affair. The world is a web of interactions, and we're connected today more than ever before in history, and there is ripple effect on everything, of everything on our lives. And carbon emissions from 50 years ago can cause floods and hurricanes today, and or curiosity of a teenager building an electric car in his garage can lead to the world's fastest hypercar a few years later. What I'm trying to say is that ideas matter, and actions matter, and responsibility matters, and they matter now more than ever. And the same goes for the role of Europe in the region. If I can summarize the region, which is not yet part of the EU. While aspiring to improve its own development, Croatia hasn't doubted for a second that Europe is the way to go. There was this consensus just existed throughout, 35 years of full consensus. Some people would say, oh, I'm against this, against that, but generally, cold turkey, they would all say, yes, that's the way to go. And because the enlargement process wasn't just about becoming a member, it included this whole transformative process that the State Secretary was talking about that precedes mere membership. And this creates mutually beneficial transformation, goes back to the member states as well, and leads to new interconnections and better anchored stability and societal change, rule of law, human rights, education, innovation. The list seems endless, really. So Europe is so much more than just mere union of member states connected with their economies and a vague idea of where they want to go. It's really a civilizational effort that needs to be updated and supported constantly. And Europe is, as the State Secretary said, Europe is, in a sense, a reflection of us as individuals and as societies that we comprise. And whatever we come up with, whatever Europe becomes, it will be Europe of the generation you belong to, the audience here and the online audience, the younger generation, and this Europe we're talking about here will become your Europe much sooner than you think. And so the idea of conversations like this is to make it a Europe you believe in, or a Europe that fits you. Thank you for the attention, and bye-bye. Thank you.